Sure, thanks, Niall, for the presentation as well. I have a couple of points. I actually remember having to go on the media quite a fair bit in the run-up to the opening of Titanic Belfast to defend visitor numbers, because everyone told us we wouldn't hit the visitor numbers, and we did. We got the million earlier than expected anyway, but so it has been a success in terms of tourism. In relation to Airbnb, now just firstly, are you able to measure that, and do you measure the Airbnb stays in the same way as you would like hotel and B&B stays? The other issue, one of the big glaring omissions for me in terms of actually strengthening our tourism brand internationally in particular, is the kind of it's a bugbear of mine, so I don't know if you have an opinion on it, whether personal or corporately, is when the Wild Atlantic Way stops at Derry and Ireland's Ancient East stops in Louth and doesn't go into, down Patrick and South Armagh, around the whole Cuchulainn aspect and all of that kind of stuff as well. So I think it makes real practical sense to join those two up, to bring the Wild Atlantic Way over to include the North Antrim coast and the Giant's Causeway and all of that. It's really just then to get your feedback now on the Airlinks, particularly in Belfast International and the loss of the New York flight and the impact that has, and if there's any work there in particular in targeting North America, because I believe there has been some additional flights from into North America, but obviously not via Belfast International, via Dublin. So it's really just that ongoing work of getting them to turn the other way on the motorway when they come out of Terminal 2. And then lastly, sure, just to really commend what Tourism Ireland are doing overseas now. I've been a long-time supporter and champion of what you are doing. I think Ireland works best when it works together, and you are an exemplar in terms of that and in terms of what you do, because we are stronger, whether that's in terms of our branding, in terms of our delivery, when we are as one. And certainly I know you have had a particular investment yourself into tourism, and certainly in a place like Belfast that maybe wouldn't be the mainstream, wouldn't be the kind of big iconic attractions, and that has had real tangible benefits on the ground. Next year we're hoping to open the new James Connolly Interpretive Centre on the Falls Road, which will be a great new tourism asset, along a whole series of tourism things that are beyond the big iconic places that get actually people into the real authentic tourism and experience, and I'm sure that's the case right across the entirety of the island. So the Airbnb stuff, the Wild Atlantic Way and Ancient East, and the Belfast International. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. We have had a number of discussions with Airbnb. Not as easy to quantify the scale and scope of it as it would be for, say, hotels that are registered, when we know they've got a bed on sale for 365 days of the year, because some people could put their property onto Airbnb for 2 weeks and take it off. We know that the average host earns about €3,500 a year. But we certainly know that the size and scope of Airbnb has grown rapidly over the last number of years, no question about that. But we are working with Airbnb and with our colleagues in the Department of Tourism, Transport and Sport to get a better handle on actually quantifying it. But certainly it's played a much bigger role than it has done in the last 3 years, significant growth. In relation to Wild Atlantic Way, Ireland's Ancient East, I've been very vocal in this respect. I mean, our overseas customer, doesn't recognise borders. I mean, they're looking for an experience. That's the bottom line. We feel that there are really good opportunities for the Wild Atlantic Way, particularly linking into Derry. And I know there's been a lot of positive discussions in that space. And we've talked before about Derry being the sort of the intersection point between the Causeway Coast and the Wild Atlantic Way. I think that sort of peace story in the 20th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement would go down very well, actually, and we'll get a lot of positive attention. And I think with Ireland's Ancient East as well, I mean, you stretch into the likes of the ecclesiastical capital and Downpatrick, there's real good resonances there. But I know our colleagues in Fáilte Ireland are absolutely open, and they've talked to their colleagues in Tourism Northern Ireland, and we remain open to promote them as sort of combined experiences. And the new Ireland's Hidden Heartlands, which has been developed by Fáilte Ireland, which is along the Shannon corridor, so to speak. I think it would be really important that Fermanagh and the Lakelands are included as part of that as well when its time comes to go into the international marketplace, which will be into later in 2019. Thanks for your kind words. I mean, I've been very personally committed to some of the developments in Northern Ireland. I think the work that's been done on Fail 30 was outstanding. I think I went up and I met them first 10 years ago, and it's amazing to see the progress, the quality of the walking tours. The international journalists that come in have really positive comments in that space. And we had some industry over from France recently who did the walking tour in West Belfast, and again it just opens up a whole new dimension of experience tourism for them. So that was very, very encouraging, so thank you for that. And we'll continue to do it. We've had a dialogue going with the Grand Orange Lodge of Ireland for 10 years. It's a long journey to go, but the new interpretive centre has helped in that respect, and I think all these things being a flavour in relation to things to do and see when you're on the island of Ireland, the diversity of it.
And just on the air links, Niall, in the Belfast,
sorry, excuse me, yes.
New York
yeah, I mean, the situation with regard to air access in North America, it's been a very strong journey for the island of Ireland. So, for example, 10 years ago, there were about 35,000 seats a week from the United States and Canada. It's now about 65,000. Those have concentrated more into Dublin, although when we saw Norwegian Air open last year, they did open to Dublin, Belfast, Shannon and Cork. Unfortunately, we have lost the Belfast link now, which is really unfortunate. There used to be 3 air carriers that went from Canada into Belfast. We don't have any now. It's all concentrated into Dublin and a small bit into Shannon. And Cork has lost the winter service for Norwegian as well. It's gone on sale for next summer. Norwegian has expanded slightly into Shannon Airport. We remain concerned in relation to the direct air access, because that is the lead indicator for tourism performance, and we'll continue to work as best we can to encourage more direct air access into Belfast, but it's proving very, very difficult. And I think the view as well would be from the American carriers is that a lot of people want to have a part of their holiday in Dublin, although Northern Ireland is growing. And the other issue is the custom and border clearance in Dublin and Shannon makes a huge difference to the ease of travel, and that facility isn't available in Belfast at the moment.
And Declan then after.
Right, thanks, Chair, and Niall, very much. I've tried recently to book the studio tour for Harry Potter in London, and there's a handful of slots available between now and 2019. A handful. So I very much welcome the Game of Thrones project, I think, around Banbridge, and I think anything that we can use to get people in here is hugely important. So the Game of Thrones and that the film industry in the north has been great for us anyway, and Star Wars then both in Donegal and in Kerry, I know they've had a bit of an uplift. I suppose you talked about the areas that you've been very strong on and how you don't expect them to last forever, and you're looking at new USPs, if you like, to attract people to the island of Ireland. I'd agree certainly that Ireland's hidden heartland should include Fermanagh, but I also think there's scope, and I know Arts Over Borders have done great work in the border region, and they're talking about a literary corridor now from Yeats through Heaney and down to Kavanagh, that we could have a new unique selling point in terms of literary tourism. I also wonder to what extent you feel that are we exploiting political tourism enough, north and south? Because I know when we went to we took the children to Glasnevin in 2015, it was booked out that morning. We got the last slot of the day. So I think there is a desire and an appetite there to learn about our political past as well, and that's something that people do come. I know if you ever try to get into our office in the Falls Road on a summer's morning, you're running a gauntlet of hundreds of tourists on the Falls, and I think we should be exploiting every opportunity we can to get people into the country and to see what we've got to offer. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you on the Game of Thrones issue. I mean, it's come out of nowhere. I mean, we were very fortunate to establish a relationship with HBO very early, who signed a licence agreement with Tourism Ireland to allow us to use the term Northern Ireland Game of Thrones territory. Now, Game of Thrones is filmed in Croatia, Spain, Iceland, so it's the first mover advantage thing. You know, we got in early, and I mean, again, you know, the example of working across government with the Irish Film Board in the instance of Star Wars allowed us to get a very early relationship with Lucasfilm, with Disney, that got us way ahead of the curve. I think there's great legacy possibilities for Game of Thrones. I mean, next year is the last series. We're in talks with them. You might have seen our Door of Thrones campaign. If you haven't, go to Blake's of the Hollow. The door is actually hanging there. And the tapestry in the Ulster Museum was the second most visited exhibit they ever had, and it brought a younger profile of visitor in as well. I mean, this is bringing, you know, the north of Ireland to a new generation of people that would never have thought about it. And I think there's exciting prospects down the road, I think, in relation to Game of Thrones, and there should be good legacy in relation to that. I agree with you in relation to the Arts Over Borders. I mean, I think literature is something that we really have good standout cachet abroad for. It plays well into the publicity space. International journalists, that we have about 1,500 journalists that come into the island of Ireland every year on carefully selected itineraries, and that's one space that plays into very well. So if something does develop, I was up in the Heaney Centre before, I think it's outstanding, what they've done. But I think I like the idea of doing something cross-border. I think that would work very well. I agree with you on political tourism. I think we are still. It's part of the programme for international publicity. I've done the Coach the Tour many times on the Falls Road. It's still very, very one of the highlights for me personally. But I think our visitors are very interested in that history as well, and particularly history that's well told. I think the key thing is having a good guide. People have to be well trained. And I think the centenary in 2016 as well has played as a good platform in terms of promoting, this space abroad, and having good facilities like, as you mentioned, Glasnevin Cemetery is excellent, and the tour they offer, and they have quite a sort of quirky way of telling the whole story of Irish history. So that's very much part of our mantra abroad as well. So it's, thank you.
Okay, thank you.